my name is Marcus Cupola. You might remember me from such list-oriented videos as List and List. Today I wanted to talk to you about how making a list can help reduce stress and anxiety. There are two primary reasons why making a list can help reduce stress and anxiety. One of them is by naming the unknown. Often, anxiety and stress are caused by not knowing what's going on and how things are going to happen or having a plan. And another is by being able to evaluate where your current priorities are versus where you want them to be. So stress can be caused by not having things written down so you don't know what's going on, but also by a mismatch between your priorities and what you wish they were. So let's tackle the first one, naming the unknown. For example, if you have financial worries, but you're not sure of where your finances are, writing down a budget, making a list of all of your expenses and all of your income. Now you might say to yourself, well, Marcus, this is just going to cause me more stress if I don't have any money coming in. Well, that's not quite true. Well, life is not anxiety and stress free. It's about reducing stress and anxiety. So if you have an amorphous blob of anything could happen, I don't know what's going on, however bad that list is, that amount of stress and anxiety is less than the amorphous anything and everything. Also, you have a certain stress reduction and a relaxation by knowing what's going on. At least you know where you are, and that's a good feeling. So by making a list, you go through the anxiety and you're then able to achieve anxiety reduction. You feel good about having done something. Now I can do something about it. Now I can plan. Now I know how much more money I need, or now I know that I do have a little bit of free room and I can breathe. Another thing you can do with lists is you can make lists of lists. So you don't have to keep it all in your head. This is another way to reduce your stress and anxiety. We try and keep things in our head because we don't want to forget. Well, if you write things down, you don't have to forget. You know it's written down. You don't have to keep it in your head. Furthermore, have you ever made a list in your head and then you say go to the grocery store and you forget something? Well, if you write it down, you can add to it as you go. You can cross things off as you go if they get done or are no longer applicable. You can make a list of all the lists you need, and then you can have each one of those lists separate. So it provides you an organization to it. When we're more organized, we're also more relaxed. Even if there's lots to do, being organized is less anxiety producing than if we're unorganized, even with the same amount of tasks. So again, we're looking at anxiety and stress reduction. And life is not anxiety and stress free. If you're thinking to yourself, well, I want to relax and have no stress, then the terminology is working against you. What we need to think of it as, I need to be less stressed, and I need to bring my stress and anxiety down to manageable or realistic levels. There again, we can then relax knowing that everything's okay, nothing's out of kilter. I can worry about tomorrow because you know what? I have a list of tasks written down for tomorrow. And I know today's are done, or I've only got 2 left. So I only need to worry about today. Tomorrow's list will be tomorrow. By organizing, you also help prioritize your time. Another thing that'll happen is somebody will say, well, Marcus, I have too many things on my list and they have to all get done. Well, stress and anxiety happens if you have too many things to get done. So shorten your list. Make it realistic and achievable. That will help reduce your anxiety because then you get all the things done that you know you have time for. And if you have a very long list and you don't get some things done, that produces more stress than if you have a shorter list and you know there are some things that you didn't put on it. So again, it's about anxiety and stress reduction. It's not about zero, because life is not anxiety and stress free. So if you use those tactics, you help organize and prioritize what you need to do most in your life. You can make a list for this week. You can make a list for this month. You can make a list for this year. You can make a list for 5 years. Then, when you make those lists in order, you put away the ones that aren't relevant now. Your 5-year list, when you get down to the part of the 5-year that is most recent and immediate, that's the list that you work on right now. Might be for this week or this month. And then, once you get to the next month, then you pull out your 5-year list, you work on the next thing, and then you put it away until you work in steps. And because the list is written down and accessible, you can modify it anytime you need. It's not written in stone. And even stone tablets could be modified. So let's move on to the next part, of anxiety and stress reduction using lists. You can use lists to figure out a discrepancy between where you are and wish you were. So for example, many of us have the idea that I'm a family person, my family is priority. Well, there are different ways to consider what is a priority, and making a list can help clarify that. So if you're in a situation, again I'll use the families, where you say, well, I'm working all the time and I do this for my family, but your family is constantly saying, well, we wish you were around more, or they're stressed because you're not around. Well, yes, being a provider is important, but what's more important, making the money or spending the time with your family? Now, if you're saying, well, I need to make money to support the family, I'm not saying don't make money. I'm saying make a list, make two lists. Make one list and start at the top of how much time you spend on each thing, and you work your way down. So if at the top it's work, and then you have extracurriculars, or you've got school, and then family, or my husband, wife, or non-binary spouse is further on down the list, or my children are down here. Then let's make a list of where your ideal priorities are. So for example, I'm a family person. Family is number one. Number two is work. Number three is working on my hobbies. Number four is volunteering somewhere, or making extra cash, whatever it is. Then what you want to do is look at the lists side by side. And if your lists aren't very similar from top to bottom, then you're probably going to have some extra stress. Now you need to think to yourself, well, what's more important? Do I want to be de-stressed, or do I want to, for example, stick to the list where I'm spending most of my time? And this is where anxiety and stress reduction comes in as far as a technique is concerned. If your goal is to reduce anxiety and you have two disparate lists, then you need to get those lists to be closer together. They need to more closely resemble each other. So for example, if you need to spend less time at work, well, if your ideal is to spend time with the family, I'm not saying that you won't have financial stress. What I'm saying is you'll have a greater amount of stress reduction than the stress that's added by the increased financial load if you spend less time working. Right? And that's what happiness is about. Happiness is often about matching our ideals to the way we do things in real life. So I'm going to put up another example of these lists here. On this side, you're going to see somebody who is very work-oriented, spends lots of time being the provider. On this side, you're going to see that same person, how they view themselves. Now you notice in this example, these lists are very different. Right? They're not in the same type of order. So what's going to happen there is if this person is spending all the time working, they're not spending their time meeting the needs that are most important to them. Now I'm going to move on to another example. The same person, for example, has gone to therapy and has resolved some of their stress around financial issues and their desire to change their life. So this particular person, they've decided, and it's a choice, they've decided that it's more important for them to put family first, because their family might not always be there. Doesn't matter. But now we're going to compare these two lists. Now you'll see this list here is a lot closer to this one here. When these two lists are very similar, then there's a lot of satisfaction that's produced. And it's produced by things that don't necessarily cost money. Spending time with our others, working on an important hobby, contributing to the world through volunteering. By having your prioritization of time in a manner that's more consistent with your ideal goals, you will have less stress and anxiety in your life. And you will reap a reward of relaxation and knowledge that you're doing what you want to do. And those are the types of things that don't have any financial tag to them. Whereas in your job, you're literally selling your life and your time. You only get to spend time once. Use it wisely. Use it for the things that are most important to you. That's the lesson in these videos. So now I'm going to recap. So if we put together making lists in order to reduce your stress and anxiety by knowing what's going on in your life, by being able to make a plan for the foreseeable future, whether it's short-term in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, or long-term in years, helps reduce stress and anxiety. Then another benefit to that making lists and prioritizing is putting the important things into your life. So on that list, make sure you have things like exercise or eating right or time with my husband, wife, or children. Put those things on your list. Make time for them. And that will reduce your overall stress and anxiety. So that's everything. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share. And we'll catch you next time.